My name is Sharat. This is my wife, Ishah Ruth. We are members of the 12 Tribes communities, and we just want to tell you a little bit about the story of how my wife's parents came to be a part of this wonderful life that we are now living, and back in the early 70s. So her parents were newlyweds, and it was their second anniversary, and they didn't go out to eat very much. Her father was telling me, and on their first anniversary they went to a place and didn't have such a good experience, got a little bit sick. So when they came around on their second anniversary, they were reluctant to go out to eat, but they were highly encouraged to go to a new place that had just opened up, a little place on Brainerd Road called the Yellow Deli. So they went, and I guess I'll tell you a little bit of the background. My wife's parents, they were raised up in the 60s in the South, and there was a lot of, as I understand, a lot of racial tension during that time between blacks and whites, and her father was real caught up into that, and took a lot of identity within himself about being a black person, and didn't have the friendliest relationships with white people. That was a little bit of the background. So they go into the deli, and most of the staffing were white people, but they seemed to not notice that my wife's parents were black. They just loved them. And what he was telling me is that he really experienced that love, the love of God, real love, breaks down barriers and binds people together. So it breaks down barriers between young and old, blacks and whites, northerners and southerners, and not only breaks those barriers down, but actually forms them together into one. And he really began to see that and experience that day when they went in for their second anniversary. So they had some nice sandwiches, and the food was really good, and the server was just so warm and hospitable to them, and offered them, said, "Would you like dessert?" And they said, "Well, we don't really have enough money to pay for dessert." And she said, "Oh, that's okay, we'll get you some anyway." And he insisted a little bit. No, it's fine, we're happy with the meal. And she said, "No, we want to give you a dessert for your anniversary." So she went back, got him a carrot cake, but she also sat down and sang him a song for their anniversary. And they were kind of a little bit uncomfortable, because all this attention was being brought to them, and they were the only blacks in the restaurant. But in the midst of that uncomfortable feeling, they knew they were being loved. A barrier was being broken down, started to begin to be broken down, because it was quite thick in my father-in-law, this barrier that he held within himself. But he was so touched by the song that was sang and the hospitality. So that was just the beginning. So then they grabbed their bill and went up to pay, and the waitress met them at the cash register, and she said, "We're not going to charge you. We want to give you the meal on us for your anniversary." And her father said, No, I want to pay. And she said, "No, we really want to just honor you for your marriage covenant, and just want to bless you, and want you to have this meal in the house." He was insistent on paying, and she said, "Well, I guess I'll go get the manager, and because we really want to give you this meal in the house." So she went, she got the manager, and the manager came out. He was real warm, loving man, and he said, "This is on us." And he said, "No, I want to pay." He insisted on wanting to pay, and the manager looked at him and said, "Well, if you really want to pay, you could come to our couples meetings that we have every week. Every Wednesday evening at the Vine House. And so, well, I'm not sure if it was at the Vine House, but he said every Wednesday at this place. And my father-in-law said he kind of took that as a challenge because he really wanted to pay, but he could tell this man really loved them, and said, "Well, okay, well we'll do that. That's how we'll pay." So the next time that the couples meeting rolled around, they came, and the barrier started to be broken down more because they saw these young married couples and talking about the struggles they were going through, and that man, the manager, was there and speaking about the things that the Bible had spoken about, how husbands and wives should live together and how they should relate to one another. And they were actually going through things in their young marriage, and they started to see, wow, these are the answers to what we're going through. And they saw that a reality in a people, that were really wanting to do things right the way the Bible said. And they were getting more, they found there was more help for their marriage in these meetings than even they were getting at the church they were going to at the time. So much so that the pastor of that church said, "Yeah, keep going to those meetings." And so they just began to be won over by that love. And her father told me that the more and more they came around, he started to feel like he was, you could say, dirty on the inside, and that this people that he was interacting with, they were experiencing a clean life, and he didn't know quite what it was, if it was because he was black or what it was. But that same man, the manager who was at that Yellow Deli and who was there at the couples meetings, said, it's not because of skin, it's because of sin, which is our selfishness. That's the reason that people can't get along. And he said it really cut him to the heart that it was his own selfishness that was the barrier. But again, the love of God was the power in a people to break down that barrier of sin and selfishness, and not only break it down, but to bind those people together. And so they were won over by that love and became a part of this family that was being formed. And that was back in the early 70s. And my wife's parents began to have more children, a family of their own within this larger family that was growing. And my wife is here and enduring in that family. And we just wanted to honor our Creator, our God, for the love that He poured out in the people's heart that would break down the barriers. Because if that love wasn't there, we wouldn't be here. So we're thankful for that. And the Yellow Deli was the place that our God gave us, where that love could be expressed, and where her parents could be won over.
The Yellow Deli is a place where Acts 2 and 4 can be lived out. And so my parents saw that seeking first the kingdom was what the people of the Yellow Deli were doing. Mm-hmm. They weren't trying to make more money and have a good business plan, but they could forget about all that and serve with their whole heart and be happy and show the love that they'd been shown. And that's really what my parents wanted to do. My mother was a very timid, like my husband said, affected by the racial tension in the South, and one of 13 children, and she was probably the most affected by that, and wouldn't have found herself in that place. But they knew they met God when they met the overwhelming love, like it's limitless love that they met when they came into the Yellow Deli. And like my husband said, they didn't even notice that they were a different skin color, because they saw that they were people, and all people are made in the image of God. And so she ended up, when they decided that this was the life they were going to live, I wasn't born then, but when I came along, my parents named me after two of my mother's best friends in the community who she really knew showed her. I mean, everyone showed them that love, but it was outstanding to her that the love of God has no limits, and it should never end and will never end if it's the love of God. And it goes on from one generation to the next. And so I've chosen to live this same life and show the love of our Father to other people in the same way. And also the waitress that waited on my parents later became my teacher. And I love her very much. And she's not here today, but she's in many of our papers with a guitar in her hand playing songs. And we love to sing her songs. And she was inspired by the Holy Spirit to write many of the songs that we sing. And it's just a life, it's a full life that we can share with others, and a history behind it. And really everyone we live with, we're here for the same purpose and the same goal, and we're happy to be here serving.
And we just want to say, you can come see us, and you can come be a part of us too.
That's right.